All right. So for anyone that is new to Motion, this is Motion. This is going to be your place where you can come in and see exactly what is going on with your creative. So we work off of a report standpoint. So you're going to have all of your different reports that you can dive into and create over here on this left-hand menu. And it just makes it really easy to be able to pop in and see exactly what's going on with your creative, but then also be able to easily see your previews and everything that's going on with them. We love that we can watch playable videos and all of that good stuff. Looks like this one might be taking a second to load, so I can get you a different one. But you can watch it. So really easy for us to be able to jump in and see exactly what's going on with creative performance. So when you come into Motion, a lot of times people are going to live in this top creatives report. And so when I think about us wanting to recap Black Friday, Cyber Monday, what we're really going to do is just create variations off of this report and some of the other ones, but we're going to tailor it more to what happened during that Black Friday moment. So the first thing that I want to do is just make sure that we get a folder created. So as you can see, as you work in Motion for a while, there's a lot of reports that start to add up. So folders are going to be really, really helpful from an organization standpoint of just making sure that you are going to be able to find what you're looking for quickly. So if I do a BFCM 23 folder, we'll be able to create that, and then we'll be able to put all of our reports in it. I'm a little ahead of you guys because I already have it in here. So we're going to have our report folder here of some that we will go through. Just to speed it up, wanted to make sure that we could get everything going. But then what a lot of times I'm going to do to just start is honestly just duplicate your top creatives or some of your favorite reports you're already using. Make it really easy if you've already set up your different metrics that are pulling in views, filters, etc. Take advantage of that. We want you to move quickly in Motion, and so duplication is going to be a really great way that you can start to set this up. And if I have any agency friends joining me, the other nice thing is that once we build this folder of the 23 recap, if you have a set of reports, you can also share this with any other workspaces that are in your organization. So once you build the templates out, you can share it with all of your friends. Everyone's going to love you because then they're not going to have to start from scratch whenever they do their BFCM reporting. Or if you want us to drop some of these in your accounts, hit us up after the session today, and we'll drop all of these base reports in your account so that you can start off with them quickly too. Okay, so the first report that I want to dive into is just going to be a really high-level creative overview. So a couple of things that we are going to want to adjust when we first come into this report. The first is that we're going to have to figure out our time frame. So if you know exactly when your sale was live, that is great. Go ahead and plug your time frame in. If you don't, I would recommend going ahead and looking at like all of November. And what we can do is we can go to line chart view. And a lot of times what I will do is I will plug in my click to purchase or click to whatever primary event you are optimizing towards. And a lot of times we'll be able to pick up a spike. I have demo data in here, so we're probably not going to see a crazy spike. But in your account, you should be able to start to see when your overall kind of like conversion rate starts to go up. A lot of times I'll just look at like kind of one of my top assets that's been running, or you can see if you have BFCM specific assets, you can see exactly when they started to go live and when the line started. So good way to just orient yourself into the date range that you should be looking at for all of these reports. So we're going to go ahead and be looking at the 8th is when we're going to say we launched our campaigns, all the way through the 28th. We're going to say we took advantage of Giving Tuesday. How many people took advantage of Giving Tuesday this year? Did we go through Giving Tuesday or did we stop at Cyber Monday this year? Let us know in the chat. I'm always curious to hear when people end their promotions. Sometimes it can drag on a little bit and we keep going. All right, once you have your date range pulled in here, then what we can do is we can start to just see what were some of our top spending creatives. So we're going to be sorted by spend so that we can really see during that time period, where did most of our investment go, but also what was the performance tied to it. And so this makes it really easy to just quickly find top performers within this report. So there's two options of kind of parsing through these and figuring out what you want to be your top performers. I'm a table girly. I really like being able to just see the green versus red. You can always change your color formatting too if you ever want to here in the table settings. So we can do that. So what I will look for typically when I'm picking out top performers is I will start to look for my assets that spent quite a bit, but also gave me a return that I'm really happy with. So a lot of times that's going to be my green ones because it's going to compare to any of the average of all of the ads that are pulling into this report. So I'm going to say this one, love to see a 5 ROAS. We'll take this 4, 5, 4, gives me top 4. Let's do one more, top 5. Okay. So in a matter of a couple clicks, we now have our top assets that we're running during BFCM. Now what I'll do is I'll look kind of at my metrics to think about what all I want to keep tabs on as far as kind of documenting this of why these might have worked for us. So right now what I'm looking at is my thumb stop, which is going to tell us if people stopped to watch the first 3 seconds of the asset. We're also going to have click-through rate. I like outbound because it's going to be the clicks that are actually going directly to the landing page that we're sending them to. A little bit different than link clicks or our click-through rate all. If you are running instant experiences, I think even sometimes dynamic creative, you might want to switch over to that click-through rate link click just because it's going to make sure and give you data. So if you ever see outbound's not working, click-through rate link is going to be your next best bet on there. So this tells me if people are making it to the site. Then I can see the percentage of people that are actually purchasing with my click to purchase or what a lot of people call conversion rate. And then I like AOV. It'll depend on your business if AOV is going to be important for this. But if you have a lot of products, AOV can be really interesting just to see if people are doing larger basket sizes from different creatives. Maybe they're purchasing from different product categories, things like that. So another helpful metric. You can customize these metrics and add in any ones you want. So say that AOV is not important to your business. We have a bunch of different metrics that you can come in here and play with and deep dive into. Some people like to go a little bit deeper on like video retention side, maybe average video play time. We can look at the percentage of people that watched 100%, lots of other fun metrics. But these couple of core metrics will at least start getting you to the initial story of what's happening with a creative. So the way I start to read this is my top performing creative, and I want to understand why it did so well. And so when I look at these stats, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this really worked well because it had that strong click to purchase and AOV. So in your case, what you can do is you can watch the preview. Mine is going to be something I would not recommend running as an ad. Hopefully yours looks a lot better than this. And you'll be able to tie back and kind of come up with hypotheses of why you think your click to purchase was elevated and you had a higher AOV. Maybe we have the offer in the beginning of this and it's very clear and it stands out, might be something. Or maybe we showcase multiple products here, which helped us to elevate that AOV a little bit. So that's going to be the first place you can kind of come in and start hypothesizing. So on your top 5 to 7-ish creatives that you're running, I would go through and watch those and see if you start to notice any trends between them too. And so what we'll be able to do with that is we can then document what we found. So a couple of options as we think about doing this. If you're putting together a deck, what we can do is we can easily copy and paste these cards. Makes it really easy to take this whole card right here and just paste it into a deck. So you can put your 5 to 10 creatives that you want to showcase in a slide deck and you'll be able to throw them in. If you do have videos too, the nice thing is that we also have download as GIF right here. So no needing to do the conversion to actually get things to be playable. If you just download as GIF, it's going to download really quick in the file format that we need. Give it just a second here. All right. And then once it gives us the go ahead that it has downloaded, we'll see it pop up in our downloads right up here in my top bar. Awesome. Mine actually went to my other window where I'm screen sharing with you guys, but you'll see it here with this GIF. Now, if I were to go to my Google Slides, all I do is I just drag and drop it onto the screen, and then you're going to be good to go, and it's actually going to be playable within your slide deck. Really, really great way to elevate your slide decks without causing you to have to spend a ton of time converting everything to GIFs. So that's how you can get into your slides. The other one is maybe we're not doing something as formal as a slide deck and we just want to share top performers internally in a Slack channel or throw it in an Asana board, or maybe we just want to put it in a log for ourselves that we have in Google Sheets. This snapshot and share report feature is going to be great for just quickly documenting what we're seeing. So I'm going to do top 5 BFCM creatives for 2023. And then what I might do is I might just note down a couple of themes that I'm seeing too. One thing that I get bad about sometimes when I'm doing analysis is I'll start going through all of these great ideas and insights and hypotheses. And then by the time I get to the end, I'm like, wait, what was that I thought about in the beginning? Or, oh, for that other asset. So this is a really good way to just quickly jot down ideas as you have them. So clear and large offer and beginning video. Might do something with showing multiple products in first 3 seconds, elevated AOV. Maybe we have something about the colors of branding that you did. Maybe you had different offers that were running. Whatever themes you start to pick up on, throw them in there so that you don't lose them. And once we copy that link, this link will now be saved in time with all of the settings that we have. We get to keep our commentary that we have there. Now we can share this with anybody that we want to, if we want to say, hey, here are our top performers. And depending on who you're sharing it with, you may want to pull some of these metrics off. You may also want to customize your columns in the table to not share as much data down here. That's totally fine. Make it relevant to whoever you're sharing it with. But now you have this where you can also play any of the previews and see exactly what was going on with the assets. And so it's really nice to be able to come back to. So when we think about having to do BFCM next year, these are lifesavers. We don't have to go through and re-audit the previous year. Instead, we're already doing that now. So we can just take advantage of these learnings. We can see our quick top performers, etc. So this is a really, really great way to stay ahead of next year or even next promo. A lot of times there's learnings that will carry over into your next promo that you're doing whenever we are recapping our BFCM. All right. These are also good links to just throw in your decks if you are doing decks. I like to throw them in the notes section in the bottom. That way, if people have questions or want to see more data, etc., makes it a quick way to kind of pop in and get back to that original view so that you can answer more in-depth questions if you ever have to. Okay. So that's how we can go about finding just some of our top creatives, eyeballing some of the themes, etc. All right, Mark is already in here creating his BFCM reports while watching. So good. Pull up your motion if you have an account, follow along. You can totally do it at the same time too. And then we're going to start to dive in a little bit into comparative reports next. So when we're kind of taking a step back from these big moments, a lot of times what we'll want to do is actually look for the larger strategies that were at play. One of my favorites that I've been talking about with brands this year that I think has been really interesting is comparing Black Friday offer-focused messaging versus having continuous evergreen that has been running. So if you do not have any comparative reports that are already similar to this that you're going to duplicate in your account, you can come up to the Create Report button in the top left, and you'll just want to do this comparative analysis button right here. And that's going to take you to a blank version of this report. So our comparative analyses, what they do is they allow us to basically create a quick Excel pivot table that looks a lot better, where we can say, hey, any ad name that contains our 50 off offer, we want to go ahead and group that into our BFCM segment. And then for our evergreens, they're not going to have the 50 off in there. So we're just going to say, hey, anything else that doesn't contain that 50 off, bucket that into evergreen. And so once we have that going in based on our naming conventions, we now can start to see what actually happened between these two different segments. So interestingly enough, in this account, we actually scaled our evergreen a little bit more and had a slightly higher return than some of our BFCM creatives. This will be very different based on your business, how much education about product is needed, how many people are kind of knowing you and sitting in your funnel and ready to purchase. So it's a really fun one that you can look at and then start to just hypothesize about why you think maybe some of the evergreen assets ended up working better than BFCM or vice versa. And maybe you learn that during a promo, all you have to do is really show that big offer and you're good to go. But this is a good gut check, and it is also really helpful for quickly being able to kind of think about, well, how much BFCM focused creative should we have versus how much do we need to focus on having really strong evergreen creative going into the moment. What's also nice about these comparative reports here is that we can click in and quickly create top performing reports off of them, or even just see all of the assets that are running within here. So if I wanted to actually see what all of my evergreen assets were, I can just quickly create that top performing report. This is going to take me to all of the evergreen assets that we were running. And now I can quickly see within that moment what was happening with my evergreen. And that way I can kind of go from that high level view into the more granular view there. All right. And then my last favorite thing about these comparative reports is going to be being able to switch over to line chart view. So this should be pretty interesting for you guys as you start to look at your line charts, because it's really fun to start to see as we get into the moment, do we see spikes of BFCM performance being better maybe through Black Friday to Cyber Monday, but outside of those like exact kind of key holidays, we see different things performing. So really cool way to kind of get that day by day view and see what's happening. The other interesting one that people are always talking about, especially a lot more of my media buying friends, CPM. CPMs can get crazy during this time period. So sometimes it's interesting to start to see how CPMs might shift for your evergreen assets versus your Black Friday focused assets. So this is another good place that you can just kind of check and see if there's any stories that can be told. And again, this chart is also able to be copy and pasted into decks super easily. So anything that you find, you can quickly get out into your decks that you're building. Or again, that share report feature is going to be your other great place to just capture all of these insights. Okay. So from here, what we can also start to do is just think about other strategies you guys were running. What was different about the creatives that you were launching? Did you maybe have different creators that you were working with? Maybe we had different stages of funnel or creative formats, any of these different things that you were running in the account. As long as we have it in naming in some capacity, we can pull that into a comparative report so that you can really start to tell the stories around it. So creative format is always an interesting one, because we can start to have and understand like images versus videos. I feel like images really have a moment to shine around promotions. So you can really see just the impact that they're having in your account and your strategy, or you can figure out if you really do have to have that video content that's needed. So this is using that same nomenclature there where we can just say, hey, ad name is containing something. We also have an ad type filter within Motion as well that you can take advantage of here. So if you want to do ad setup, ad type, that's where you can get to all of these different selections here to make it a little bit easier. It's kind of like a bonus metric if you don't have images, videos, GIFs, etc., pulled into your naming conventions. But this can be a helpful one to understand just assortment and kind of what worked across your different formats. All right. And then creator is one that's always close to my heart because we have so many brands that work with so many great creators. So it's always interesting to see how different ones are working for us. Pro tip, if you already have comparative reports built out in your account, all you have to do is just do like a quick, like if we were doing stage of funnel or something, duplicate here, and then just change your date range to be Black Friday. So that way you're not having to build from the ground up. So if you've already put in the work of building cool comparative reports in your account, no worries, take advantage of that, do a quick dupe, change up your time frame, and then you're going to be good to go. We can also add global filters within comparative reports as well. So say we just wanted to look at prospecting, or we just wanted to look at maybe retargeting, we can always add that in. And so now it's just going to show us which creator actually performed better within that specific initiative. So really nice way to tailor these reports in quite a bit. So here we can see that Optimus Prime did better for us. I'm going to switch over to a ROAS. I just like to see my spend and efficiency. So Optimus scaled for us really well, but Megatron did pretty great from a return perspective. So probably worth working with both of them again next year. So good way just to evaluate talent that you're working with. And we can also, again, dive into those specific ads that they did for us so that we can see maybe which ones were best. So as we think about briefing creators during promo periods, we can start to take some learnings and figure out what is going to be best for that. Sharing reports with creators is really helpful for briefs as well. So if we were to dive into Optimus Prime's creatives and find a couple that were working really well, go through an example of how to do that. Then we can have and document kind of what were the top creator ads from them. And then it makes it really easy for us to pop over and share things. I also really like motion metrics for sharing reports. So sometimes when we're working with creators, we don't want to give away how much we're spending or what the return that we're getting is. So I might just do something like let's see here, capture attention. Ooh, let me find it. Here we go. Okay, like our hook score, our watch score, and then we'll do click score and convert score. And so these 4 metrics will just give us scores based on how this is performing to other ads in the account. If it is an image, you're not going to get hook or watch score just because that's going to have to do with video metrics. But outside of that, we can just share this so they can see what worked really well within it. Or if you don't want to share any metrics at all with your creators, that's totally fine too. We can take everything off and then all they're going to be able to see is the actual content that did really well. So we can go through here and we can select the ones that did the best. And then we can quickly just share that report and save it. And that way we have top 3 assets to share with our creators. Top 3 creator assets from Optimus. And then what I might do is let's use these as inspo for next promo period. And so now this is really easy to pass on to all of your influencers or creators because you're not going to have to deal with all the permission links, things like that. One other thing, we do pull in all of the table views. So if you don't want them seeing metrics before you share it, highly recommend having go to customize columns. I would just take everything off. Bear with me for a second. And I would save this as a new preset in your account. And so what you can do is you can just do like creator share preset or something like that. And that way we're not accidentally sharing a bunch of information with them. Let's see. Can I get through all of these? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to do save as new preset. And I'm going to do creator sharing. Oh, 1 column. Okay, we'll do our hook score. We'll do save as new preset, creator sharing. Perfect. So now we have this. And now when we go to share that report, if I were to generate that again, now we're just going to have that hook score coming in and there's nothing that's going to be here to give away any of our data. But just be careful with that because sometimes that can trip people up in that table view where we accidentally share a bunch of metrics and it confuses people. All right. Okay. Let's do a couple more reports and then I think we can pop over into Q&A. So if you have any questions or ideas of things that you're recapping that you're not quite sure how to get to the best views for, go ahead and drop that in the Q&A and we can go through some live examples together of how I would think about sorting through some strategies to make sure you're pulling out all of the right insights. So one of the things that can be interesting with Black Friday is landing page strategy. And within Motion, what we do is we can actually pull in to see landing page performance based on the landing pages your ads are driving to. So all this is going to do is just change this grouping function right here to be more focused on landing page. And so what this will then show you is you can start to see the different landing pages that we're being driven to. And you can see what was the conversion rate, spend, AOV, etc., as you drove to these landing pages. So typically, click to purchase is going to be the main metric that I'm going to be looking for on this page. So for you guys during BFCM, if you were running to maybe homepage and then collection page, product page, maybe you had like an educational BFCM page that you were also running, you'll be able to see those pulling in here so that you can start to understand which landing page actually worked best for you. And that way, as we go into next year, we can make the decision of, is it worth investing in building a BFCM only landing page from the ground up, or do we just trade out the homepage imagery for BFCM offer? This is also a really good one for thinking about AOV and how that can change. So sometimes we'll see dropping someone on a product specific page can bring that AOV down just a little bit because they maybe are only seeing that one product that you have, versus if we put them on a collection page, for instance, maybe you start to see that AOV increases because they're seeing multiple products. And so they end up buying multiple things when they're checking out. So both of these metrics will be really helpful ones to look at. Keep scale in mind, just because that's also going to be important here when we think about how much spend and traffic actually went to these pages. But great place that you can pull this in. These are also copy and pastable. So you'll be able to do that. And then in these previews, it's pretty cool. You can actually click in and scroll through the website too. So if you need to reminisce a little bit on what exactly is on that landing page, what's going on, you can scroll through. So always interesting to me if I see like a lower click to purchase or something, I might look at this and be like, oh, okay, it's because we are talking about the 19 best smelling candles. It's a little bit more editorial than it is like shoppable. And so I can kind of go through here and look at the landing page that way. Cool. All right. Another big one that we talk about a lot is just thinking about hooks and what hooks have worked well for us. So hooks are such an interesting category, especially during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because I feel like attention spans just shorten. There's so much noise. There's so many offers. People are dealing with their families during the holidays. It's just kind of chaotic for everybody. And so it's really interesting to see what was really good at capturing that initial attention when we think about our videos that we have been running. So this is a place where this report, what I'll do is I will take a report like a creative overview or a simple base report, and I just add on filters to be able to find the ads that I'm looking for. So I'm using our motion metric of capture attention, and I want to say that I got a score of above 75, but you could also replace this with a thumb stop ratio if you wanted to. If you know what is a strong thumb stop ratio in your account. And that way we're looking at anything that maybe got a thumb stop ratio of above 30%, et cetera. I like the motion metric just because it's a little bit easier. It works across time periods. So say if you're, overall your hook and thumb stop ratio is increasing, you will be able to still use just an above a 75 capture attention, and it's still going to hold true for you. So a little bit more evergreen, but both of them will get you to the same place. The other thing I like to layer onto this too can be just some other performance metric filters like spend. So making sure that we don't have any like baby spenders in here. You might do greater than 500 if you're running a lot of spend in your account. Maybe this is 1,000, 2,000 even, but we just want to pull out any of those super low spenders that may have a really high thumb stop ratio and capture attention rate, but it's just because they didn't serve to that many people. Then this third one is optional, but I like to make sure that there is some type of performance on the hook. We can all create a crazy hook that captures attention, but it's just something super shocking and it doesn't actually translate into performance for us. So this is where I like to kind of use it to find, hey, where are my hooks that captured attention, but also of the right people and got them to kind of go through and end up converting. So this is where I might put something, maybe it's a little under my goal. So I would say, I don't know, maybe we'll do like a 2.5 here. And I just want to make sure that we had some type of momentum on here because there's a lot of other things that are going to play into your return outside of just the hook We just want to make sure that we're on the right track, at least with this. So really nice example of how you can quickly come in here and set these different filters. This is also a really, really nice one because it's a lot harder to do when you get into Ads Manager to filter for more of these like performance metrics in the platform. So it makes it super easy to pop in and look at it there. So now we can start to see that these are some of our really good hooks within the account. And so I can start to watch them and see, okay, what was going on in those hooks? Is there any key takeaways that I can start to pull in or stories that I can tell? So as you look at yours, you should be able to start kind of pulling out some different themes and ideas of what worked. All right, we are rounding up on the 20-minute mark here. So I think at this point, we've gone through lots of different reports that you can look at, comparative reports that are going to give you different buckets that you can look at and compare across different strategies that you're running. So this should give you a really, really good start as you're beginning to dive into your BFCM performance. And then my biggest words of advice as you're starting to do this would just be to stay curious. As you're looking at these things, pulling out different themes, think about why that might have happened. Really get playful in ideas and questions you ask, and then build other reports that will help you to dive in and see more about kind of what happened there with your different creatives. All right, so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I think we will go into Q&A and get all of these questions answered. And guys, keep adding questions to the Q&A. And that way, we can make sure that everyone gets all of their questions answered. All right, let's do this. Okay, Sonia has the first question of what's Motion's benchmark for BFCM KPIs for good performing creatives? Okay, specifically thumb stop, hold rate, click-through rate, ROAS. Such a good question. I get the benchmark question a lot with people. And I think it's really hard to do benchmarks because businesses can be so different. So let me actually show you. I'm going to pull my screen back up. I'm going to show you the way that I think about kind of benchmarking within an account so that we can really understand what performance looks like. So I'm going to pop into a report that is going to be pretty unfiltered. If you have different strategies that you are running, or so like maybe it's prospecting versus retargeting, things like that, different breakdowns that you're going to be viewing and analyzing your campaigns in, you may want to add those breakdowns into the report here. Give it a little refresh. It doesn't like me having all these tabs open. Let's see if we can get going here. Maybe. Okay, let's pop in here for an example. Okay, so this one, let's pretend it doesn't have any filters on it. What I would actually do is I would pop down into the very bottom of your table, and you're going to start to be able to see the averages of what happened across all of your ads or within a specific segment. And so what I would do is I would use this as your baseline of what is happening. And so, for example, when we think about ROAS or something like that, we had a 3.98 on average. So when I think about setting my benchmark for what is going to be top performing, that's when I'm really going to think about like, okay, I want to make sure that it's better than average. Sometimes I'll do 20% better than average as kind of what I want to make sure I'm achieving to pull up that overall average. And I think Mark has a great point in the chat. For any of those video metrics, it is going to be different for videos and GIFs. So GIFs can be, I almost think of GIFs as being analyzed more like images. I don't think that hook and hold rate are going to be as pertinent on these because there's usually not as much storytelling or animation that's going on. So I think of them as just like a little bit more of a playful static. So I would analyze GIFs more as statics. And then when I'm looking at these, I would really focus on video. So if you're pulling those benchmarks for videos specifically, you can always add in that ad setup, ad type is video. And then what I would do is if you do put like GIF in your ad naming convention, I would do ad name doesn't contain GIF. And that way we can pull out anything. So this is just going to be your true video creative in the account. And so now we can go and we can look at that thumb stop ratio and we can say, okay, on average, we're at about 20%. So let's say for it to be top performing, I might make that bump it up to like say 24%, 25%, so that we know we're going to be kind of in that upper echelon of what is performing well for us in thumb stop. You can do the same thing for hold rates, click-through rates, et cetera. But that's going to be a good way to make sure that you're comping that performance to yourself. If you have a meta rep, though, the one other tip I will give you is that they have access to pull kind of like benchmarking reports for a subset of competitors of yours. So I think you can give them like up to 5 different competitors and they can pull not all of these stats, but some of them. I think click-through rate, I think conversion rate as well are one of them, or at least they used to be. But I would ask your meta reps for some of that, for some of those reports, and give them the list of like 5 people that are really close to your brand. And I think that will be a good way to give you more of that industry insight into how you are comparing to similar businesses. So hopefully that helps, Sonia. All right, let's stop the screen share. We'll go on to the next question. All right. Spencer, if we rename ads after BFCM with particular offers, does all the data backfill immediately? It may not backfill immediately, but within a couple of hours, it should. And one thing I will tell you to check on here is going to be this little node up in the upper right-hand corner of your report. So this is going to say recently updated right here. Make sure that that says that. If it says like 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, click it, let it load. It's not going to look like it's doing much, but actually, as I promised, don't change your screen. And then once that updates, give your screen a refresh and it should pull in all of the new things. If it doesn't do it after that, ping me and my team over here on Intercom Chat Bubble, and we'll push it from the back end to make sure it comes in. All right. And then Taylor, let's see. Taylor has a question here around motion currently pulls in the 9x16 story real asset as the preview in the reports. Yep, sometimes it does get cut off. So it'll be a mix. Sometimes it will pull 1x1. Sometimes it pulls 9x16. I was actually talking to Elliot, our head of product, about this earlier this week. So it's something that's top of mind for us, and we are looking at ways to fix this. So thank you for flagging. We love feedback at Motion. So if you guys ever have feedback, ping us with it. You can always use that little chat bubble in the app to throw it our direction. You can always email me directly as well, and we can make sure and get everyone taken care of there. All right. Anthony has another question. Understandable that these reports will need to be customized per account, but did you say that there's a way of getting these initial templates? Yes, since you guys are friends and came to the event, we'll get these dropped in your account. So feel free to send myself an email or reply to the event. Let's see, probably the email where we announce the event, reply to that, hit us up on the Intercom chat bubble, any of those ways, and we'll get these kind of base reports built out for you. It won't be the comparative ones because those are going to be so specific, but we'll at least get that first set of the main reports that we looked through so that you guys can all start using those to customize and go from there. All right. And then we've got a question from Emil. I noticed some late attribution for the BFCM campaigns. What is your best reporting attribution window? Oh, attribution, always a fun topic. So for attribution, this is going to be, it's going to depend on your business and your strategy, to be honest. But we can pull screen share back up here, and I will show you the way that you can customize this within your Motion reports. So if you are in a report right here, if you go to that customize columns flow, we will do this. And then you'll be able to come in here to edit your attribution window. So this might take some playing around. Sometimes for BFCM, people will hone it in a little bit and they'll maybe just do a one-day click with no view because we've got so many different campaigns, a lot going on. So if you do that, you can now hit apply, and this is going to be looking at your one-day click only. And so what you can even do is you can then save this report as your evergreen one-day click only. And let me see where that went. And then I might do a quick duplicate, and I can even compare that to what it looks like with some of the other time or attribution windows that we're looking at. This, duplicate, and get it pulling in. Perfect. And so now I might come over here and I might change this to more of the default 7-day click, 1-day view. And maybe I see kind of what looks different as far as the analysis. And then you can use both of those to go back and forth and figure out what is the best one for you. So then we would just come back here, use default window. Do note that by default, all of your reports are 7-day click, 1-day view. The other thing I would keep in mind here, though, is I would talk to the media team if you're not running the campaigns and figure out what they were optimizing towards for the moment. So within the actual media buys, you can set if you want to optimize for 7-day click, 1-day view, 1-day click only. And so a lot of times Meta will recommend matching your attribution window for reporting with the attribution window that you chose for actually running those campaigns. It just keeps it consistent on making sure when you tell the algorithm, hey, we want you to go find purchases within this specific attribution window. That way you're actually evaluating it against the same goals that you set for it initially. So great question that you can throw at your media team if you guys are not doing the buying yourself. And then on the topic of attribution as well, we do integrate with Northbeam as well as Google Analytics. So if you're using any of those platforms, you can connect those into Motion, and then those will show up as additional metrics here. So say you wanted to look at your Northbeam data or GA last click data, because that's what your source of truth is, you can always pull those in as well if we're not using platform. I also like Motion just because it can put them side by side too. So in this report, if you were working with a GA, a Northbeam, maybe even both of them, what you could do is you could have all three of your returns stacked up next to each other, and you can start to see what's happening across those different attribution windows. I like to kind of think about it as like painting by numbers a little bit with the different attributions that you're looking at across these different platforms, because they all tell a little bit of a different story about what is happening with your campaigns. So probably a little bit more on the media side, but for any of my creative friends that are here, great topic to just bring up with your media team to see what they recommend that you should be looking at your campaigns and creative data through with attribution windows and attribution partners. All right. Okay. And then let's see. Franz, is there a metric for NCCPA in Motion? I am not familiar with this metric, Franz, so maybe if you want to hop into the chat for me, give us a little bit more context on NCCPA, and we will see if we can get you taken care of. We can also ping you after the event and make sure that you get what you need there. All right. And Samuel, so good to have you joining the event today. Question on, does Motion have any plans on creating compare dates reporting? For example, comparing benchmarks from this year versus last year. Great question. We don't have compare dates on the roadmap right now, but if we want to pull screen share back up again, typically where I will go when I'm thinking about kind of looking at trends within Motion will be the line chart view. And I think this can be really helpful when we're more in the comparative reports here. So let me pop into BFCM versus Evergreen. Actually, we're gonna create one from scratch. I'm gonna show you one of my little fun hacks for comparative reports. So what I would probably do, the easiest way to get to this right now is I would do all performance. Actually, I'll do account wide. And then I just throw a filter on here for campaign name doesn't contain, like XYZ or like a jumble of letters that's not going to be in your campaigns. And that way it's going to pull everything into that line item. And so then once we have it into that line item, we can see overall performance for that time period. So if I switch over to my 8th to the 28th, whatever your time period is for that, we can then see overall performance there. And so what I might do is I might just look at, this one, and then another window, open the one from last year to see how those compared. And maybe I'll copy and paste the charts side by side in a deck, something like that. But you can also use the line chart here, which can become interesting to see how things shifted during the moment. So this can be a really cool one if we're wanting to tell any stories around CPM can be fun. So we see oh, wow, we did have a little bit of a spike, towards the very end when we were in that really high moment of what the CPM was. So another cool way that you can kind of take it from a really high level standpoint here and see exactly what is going on and get more of that time comparison view. We also have, this will apply a little bit less to Black Friday because we're going to be talking about a certain period, but for any of your more evergreen reporting and things like that, sometimes what can be interesting to look at is if we actually back out for last 365 days, this will actually turn to monthly. And so something we can look at is we can look at our return. Let's see if I can get this to pull in for me. Try again. And then this will give us kind of the monthly view here of what is actually happening. Sometimes if it won't load for you, I'll just save it. Sometimes it gets finicky. And a hard refresh showing you all the tricks for when it gives you any trouble here. See. So hopefully that will come in for you. If you ever have it where it's just continuing to fail on you like this, I think we have some problems with our demo data, but if it's ever doing that, you can always just ping us here in this chat bubble too, and we can get to work on this and make sure that we're able to get you those results that you're wanting to look at. But line chart view is definitely going to be a good one, or just using screenshots of kind of those overall views of what we're pulling in. All right. Gang, any other quick questions that we have? We have about 5 minutes left on here. Any analyses that people are really excited to start diving into as you guys are getting out of this session and doing your Black Friday recaps? What are some of the top comparative reports people are excited to pull? Anything interesting? See if we can get some chat replies, see what everyone's going to be analyzing, give inspiration for the rest of the crew here. Evergreen versus promo. Okay, cool. Taylor, cool to see that you guys did that. Interested to hear how it goes for you guys. What about, did we have anybody that ran multiple different offers throughout the whole event? We have pre-Black Friday versus Black Friday. I think that'll be interesting to look at, or different offers maybe. Did anybody run different offers during the whole event itself? Maybe we had buy one, get one of this product and 20% off site-wide, anything like that? Yeah, okay. Got some different offers that we're running. All right, Mark's about to get brownie points getting his BFCM report to the management team. So good. We love being able to quickly share. I feel like management teams also love those quick little snapshots that we looked at too, just because we can get them off super quickly. Also, if I have any agency friends joining me, great for keeping clients updated on these things or giving them a sneak peek to maybe the more robust decks that you're building with trends. They always love just getting those quick little top performers and things like that. LP comparison. Yeah, that's a really fun one, Anthony. I always am very interested in the LP comparison reports, especially if you have a business that is working on a lot of different landing pages or has a different landing page strategy. Mark hitting me with the question, are we going to have a Triple Whale as an integration? We would love to have Triple Whale as an integration, but their API is closed off to us right now. So if anyone's working with Triple Whale, if you have a Triple Whale rep, tell them that you would love them to integrate with Motion, and maybe we will get them to open it up and then we can look at potentially integrating there. And we have a lot of customers that work with them. It's a common question that we get. So hopefully we will get there one day. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much to everyone for coming out to this event. please come and tell us how it goes as you start to build out your reports. If you are not a part of Motion, also quick reminder that this is a great opportunity to test it out and see how easy it is to be able to pull your reporting, make it a little bit quicker. So feel free to book a demo and we can get you on a free trial so that you can see how it goes. And then for anybody that's on the event, if you want to get those reports in your account, email me, ping us at Intercom, whatever is the easiest way. Tell us that you want the reports and we'll get those added in for you so that you guys can have a little bit of a jump start on what you're looking at. But thank you everyone for coming and we will see you all soon. Thanks everyone.